Tuesday, May 27th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Gardening Day, folks. Only half a show today. We are the opening act for the King's Speech, so get those calls in early if you want to chat about the grow season in late May. That's right. CBC Radio 1 presents the speech from the throne. So you can join your World Tonight's Susan Bonner and Catherine Cullen of the House for special coverage as the King lays out the priorities of the new government of Mark Carney. That in 24 minutes, folks. So yeah, all the green thumbs of the Signal listeners are all ready to listen to the King as he lays out the priorities of the government. But first, let's... Todd Boland is here from Munn's Botanical Garden, horticulturist. How you doing?
I'm doing very good, thank you.
I've got so I always forget this, when the Botanical Garden crowd are in, so last week Tim Walsh comes in and he's got like a very fancy, very high quality little thing.
Well, we don't do anything halfway.
No, exactly, right? And he gave it to me, and then I put it down and didn't talk about it for the whole show. So this week my note says, talk about thing Tim gave you with Todd right away. Tell us about it. What is it?
Yeah, so you can go online. You can see all the various events. This is just sort of a handout version that the public can take for upcoming events at the garden. And the big one, which I got to push out if nothing else, is just the big plant sale for the Friends of the Garden. This year is a little bit later than usual. Usually we have it the first weekend or the second weekend, sort of say, in June, around the 8th or the 9th. But this year it'll be the 14th. So I think that's the Father's Day weekend.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so that's Saturday, June the 14th, 9 o'clock. Will be the Friends of the Garden plant sale. Be there or be square.
Yeah.
To get the best selection for all the neat stuff that the Friends of the Garden are propagating all the time. But this weekend, I'm not sure if there's any, I think it may be full. There's supposed to be a course on pruning.
Yes.
So you can inquire at the garden, but I do think I heard rumors that course might be filled. And I think around the middle part of June, Tim will be doing a course on creating an alpine trough.
Yes, bye.
Right, so another opportunity there to come in and and make your own little troughs. And if you're interested in seeing what they look like, drop up to the garden. We have all sorts of them down there, adjacent to our rock garden, where you can see samples of how they're all made.
Yeah, I'm just looking at
You can't find it there?
No, I got it here.
Found it? Okay,
yeah, we're just pretty much at. I'm just keep flipping from May to June, right? Because I'm just like, no, Adam, it's late May. May's pretty much.
Yes, right.
Forget
May's
about
just
May.
Finish now.
Look at June. Create your own alpine trough. June 19th, 6:30
Yeah.
8:30 p.m. $80. Booze and Botany is back.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right?
So we've been doing booze and botanies now for I don't know how many years, 6-7 years
wow,
now.
yeah.
So once a month we'll have a different theme.
Yeah.
It could be cocktails, it could be wine, it could be spirits, beer, Radlers, whatever. It varies from month to month. And you come up and I'll give you a little bit of a spiel about what it is you're drinking. Then I'll take you on a tour of the garden.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right? You should do gimlets. They're nice. I like a little gimlet. It's like gin with muddled cucumber, lime juice.
As soon as you said cucumber, you turned me off immediately.
No, come on! Gin and lime juice. You don't have to muddle the cucumber. I like it with it. But you can put mint in instead.
Oh, okay. Well, that'd be far
nicer.
nicer.
Very nice little thing. Booze and Botany, let me see. Yeah, and then the drop-in programs, right? And you said the spring plant sale. June 14th, right? This Father's Day. Say I love you with yard work.
There you go. Put Dad to work.
That's cool, and I know that is so popular.
Yes.
People,
and things, especially some of the plants are in limited supplies, so you need to be there early.
Yeah.
In order to be able to get the best choices.
You've got there's a honeybee week, June 22nd and 29th, Gnome and Garden Fair, late June. Father's Day, by the way, according to this thing, Father's Day, June 15th. So the day after you get your dad a plant.
I think I'm giving a walk.
Yeah.
On rhododendrons.
And it's a free admission for dads.
Oh, well, there you go. So Dad can come, get free admission, and I can take you on a tour of all the roadies that are at the garden.
Yeah, so that's a great thing to be at for Father's Day, right? Free admission for dads, June 15th at the Munn Botanical Garden.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Folks, so like I said, we've got 20 minutes of talking to do before His Majesty starts his talking. So 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Text us 709-327-8206. The Signal at cbc.ca. It is gardening day here on the show, so that means you can call and ask for tips, or you can call just to tell us what you're up to in your garden, right? Like how's stuff going, what your expectations, your hopes are.
How's your garden faring over this last 2 weeks of misery?
Of just, because it's not been.
It's been a hard 2 weeks on the garden.
Yeah.
But despite that, I said, the heck with it. I'm planting the potatoes anyway.
So are they in?
Oh, the potatoes. I put the potatoes in 2 days ago.
Okay, potatoes in 2 days ago.
Yeah. So, they'll just sit in the ground till the ground warms up enough for them to sprout.
Yeah.
And, the weather starting tomorrow, touch wood, is supposed to change. And maybe we'll finally get some spring weather. We'll see what happens. But onions have been in now for a couple of weeks. And green onions, regular onions, they're already up 3 or 4 inches high.
Yeah.
And now I'll be ready to actually probably in the next day or two, I'll be sowing the turnip and the cabbage and things along those lines.
And speaking of Father's Day from earlier, right? Like
Right.
that time of year of the go time for certain folks.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything that you're waiting for around that Father's Day for that frost discussion on putting in the ground, or do you or does that or
Well,
do you push stuff
usually
in wherever?
after the 15th, Father's Day is sort of the cutoff date then for putting out your annuals, right? So any annuals we put out or any of the warmer season crops, things like zucchini, corn, things along those lines, beans, we generally wait till after the 15th of June before we put them in the ground. Right. So, so that's sort of the Father's Day weekend is sort of the kickoff to summer, do I dare say? Summer as it exists in Newfoundland.
Yeah, exactly. I just find it interesting, right? Because it's the onions are already in. You just put the potatoes in, so it's go time for a lot of stuff.
Oh,
and
it
yet,
is.
And yet there's the other stuff that you're like, you just got to wait a little bit longer.
You so wait a bit. Peas could be in the ground now.
Yeah.
Not a problem. You can sow things like your carrots and your beets and your turnips and cabbage. A lot of those can go in the ground. Certainly now, if the weather starts to warm up either bit at all. I know it was pretty darn cold this past couple of weeks. Every night it was down to freezing practically.
Yeah.
But generally, these seeds don't mind the cold. They'll just be later and slower in germinating.
Yeah.
Right. And they'll come up whenever the time seems fit for them to come up. Right. But I'm thinking I'm going to be very hopeful. According to long range, it looks like the weather is finally settling into being more seasonal as it starts tomorrow. Yeah.
So what's at the botanical garden then with how's that been impacted by the last couple of weeks with these?
It was hard on some of the early flowering rhododendron because we've had rhododendrons blooming now since the end of April.
Right.
And April is interesting because April and the first week of May, we were way ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And I think, oh my gosh, first time in years we've actually are having a spring. But then Mother Nature said otherwise. So, but what ended up happening is a number of these rhodies were already in flower. Back, I think it was less than a week ago, we had an all-time record cold night, dropped to minus 3.7 at the airport. Botanical Garden wouldn't have been any different because we're up in higher elevation than a lot of parts of the city. And the poor old rhodies, the flowers just got completely turned to mush up there. I'm very delighted that our few magnolias, we just put in some new magnolias a couple of years ago, and thankfully they weren't open. There's one magnolia just coming into flower now. I'm sure more will open up now in the next couple of days. I think they were just ready to burst, waiting for a little bit of heat. And because we're having temperatures so cold, even if it's only 13 or 14, it'll feel like heat for these poor old plants. And people who have cherry trees, I almost see a little bit of white coming into buds now. So I suspect by this weekend the cherries are going to be in flower. I've already seen some plums in bloom around the city. They're not going to have very many plums because there ain't no bees flying around that cold weather. But they're still in bloom now. So hopefully this weather turns warmer. They'll still get a chance to hit some of those latter blooming flowers, right?
We had a question last week. Someone sent in a note wondering about if you want to plant natural pollinators for the bees, the
bumblebees and the solitary bees.
But, so not the farmed bees, but just
just the regular native bees.
There you go.
Yeah.
What can folks be planting?
Most of the plants we grow in our gardens are usually pollinated by the native bees. They're like probably the number one pollinator here in the province.
Doing the work.
Doing the work. I mean, there are some plants that are pollinated by butterflies, but most people know we don't have a lot of butterflies here in the big scheme of things.
Can't remember the last time I saw a butterfly.
Right? You know, I mean, I've seen a couple this spring.
And I mean, if anyone's going to see a butterfly, it's going to be you. At
Yeah,
the
right.
garden,
But
and
I
you've
mean,
seen a couple.
even up at the garden, you know, I've seen probably 3 or 4 butterflies so far this spring. That's it.
Yeah.
So any plant relying on a butterfly to get pollinated around here is going to be up the creek.
Yeah.
But we have lots of bees, and I'm seeing lots of solitary bees, oodles of them on the go. Like any kind of a mildish day, you will see them. They love willow. Right, so right now, or some of the willows are already finished flowering, but there are some other pussy willows that are just starting to come into bloom now. And the solitary bees, the little small native bees, they go mad after the pussy willows because they're feeding on the pollen, right? Because so a lot of these bees, including our honeybees, an important thing at this time of year now is a pollen source, not so much nectar, because nectar is more for creating the honey for overwintering purposes, right? This time of year now, they have all the young ones, and the young ones need protein to grow, and the proteins come from the pollen, right? So as it turns out, pussy willows are full of pollen, especially the males, no pollen on the females, but the male bushes are covered in catkins, so lots of pollen, and that's what the bees are gathering. And even the honeybees up at the botanical garden now are gathering all the pollen from the pussy willows.
Yeah.
That's a very, very important one. But the other thing that flower for us is a lot of the relatives of blueberries, okay? So what we call the ericaceous shrubs. And ericaceous shrubs here in Newfoundland will include blueberries, partridge berries, bilberries, the sheep laurels, bog laurel, Labrador tea, a lot of the native shrubs, right? So if you're a fisher person, you're out wandering around the barrens in Newfoundland, you know, you're walking through scads of ericaceous shrubs. And they all produce sort of whitish or pinkish, sort of almost bell-shaped flowers.
Yeah.
And including the blueberries, of course. And they're all pollinated by the little solitary bees. That we have so many of around here. I mean, you know, generally speaking, we have pretty good crops for these kind of berries. If we have a poor crop, it's usually because the weather's too cold or too dry, and the berries just sort of shrivel up and drop off. But typically, we have lots of blueberries, and it's all about the pollinators. So we have lots and oodles of little solitary bees that are going around. So, but now, as a garden plant, you're probably not going to plant that kind of thing in your garden. Just a wide variety of flowers. Small flowers, a lot of the bees go for the smaller flowers as opposed to big blousy things, and single flowers as opposed to double, right? So like a single rose, very popular. Double rose, not so much so.
Right on.
Right? Same with a peony. Double peonies, Single peonies, oh my gosh, the bees will go mad after them, right? Because lots and lots of pollen. So so just grow a big diversity of flowers, and you'll keep a nice population then of the native bees going.
Excellent. Thank you for answering that, because it's when the question came in last week, I was like, "Oh, Todd's next week on. I don't talk about this. My guest next week." Let's go to the phone line. So, folks, only about 12 minutes left before we got to sign off because of the speech from the throne. So we can take a couple of calls, though. 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Text us 709-327-8206, the signal at cbc.ca. Shannon is on the line from Middle Cove. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I had a question on onions.
Yes.
Okay.
I've planted onions from seed a number of times and had big success. I'm a bit late. I have the seed, but I never got around to getting it in to start. I'm wondering, is it too late to kind of go with that? And would it be even possible to plant the seed directly into the garden?
You could direct sow. That said, it is getting a bit late, because I know at the garden, generally speaking, when we're growing our onions from seed as opposed to sets, we usually sow them like February, March, to give them a good kick start into the season. Right now, I suspect if you plant the seeds, like I said, you can plant them direct out. You could certainly be harvesting the thinnings as green onions, so you're not, it's not going to go to waste. But you probably will not get the full size onions because it is a little bit late into the season now.
Yeah, I figured as much. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
But that said, too, if you get access to the onion sets. We've had our onion sets put in since the 1st of May, but really they haven't been doing anything because the weather's been so darn cold and the soil's been so cold. It's still not too late to get your sets in.
Yes, I've had sets in the past with success. I think that's what I'll have to do, and use the seed next year.
There you go.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, good luck.
Thanks, Shannon. Good luck. Yeah, I find it's funny thinking about gardening because there's, you're going through the winter, and then when do I start? And then it's like, oh wait, no, too late for that one. It's, oh, no, start with it. Oh, no, can I still get the sets in? Oh, it just
Yeah.
you can
And
wait so long.
I think
and
because, I mean, typically in most Mays, I stagger the planting, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
like every week is always, okay, this week now it's the radishes. This week, next week it's going to be the turnips. Next week it's going to be the carrots. And because the last 2 weeks have been so cold and miserable, nothing's gotten in really.
Yeah.
No seeds. Like I said, onion sets and potatoes, that's it. I haven't sown any seeds yet. And now suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, it's like 1st of June this weekend. It's like, holy crap. I usually have these things in the ground 2 weeks before now. Right, so it's going to be very busy, and of course I'm gone away on vacation next week, so it's going to be very late before I get a lot of my veggies in this year.
I always, trying to plan like your personal life of perhaps a trip or whatever else, but then like looking at the gardening side of it, and
Well, see, normally I have everything done by the 1st of June.
Yeah, of
right.
course,
So then I
right.
can
The
go.
weather's
So
been
I'd like to go over to the West Coast because they're usually a week or two ahead of us here in St. John's. So I like going over to the West Coast, Codroy Valley or whatever, for the first week of June and really get to experience this, almost like 2 springs.
Yeah.
In some respects. But like I say, normally I have everything done before the 1st of June. Now it's like, oh my God, I'm caught with my pants down, so to speak.
It's really funny. You mentioned a couple of days from now, it looks like the temperature for like the Avalon, much of the island, I think it's going to be hot in central.
Mid-20s, I think, in the central.
And Labrador has got, its own range. I think Nain this morning was the hot spot in the province, 9 degrees at the airport in Nain today. So yeah, big, vast bit of weather. But for me, as like the days get longer each year, and then that turn to warm, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, everything's moving by too quickly, and we're not even at the warm spot yet. But I feel it's moving by too quickly. And next thing you know, it'll be getting darker soon. We'll be back into winter.
Oh, shh.
Like,
Don't go there.
So I'm just going to try to be bored every day, because if you're bored, life is longer.
Oh my God, no! You don't want to be bored. Life's too short to be bored.
I guess so. What else should folks be keeping in mind now? Because we talked about different bits to get in. Like I know there's you talked about there's the pruning workshop coming up. But like, what should folks realize about pruning?
Well, I was just going to say one thing to keep in mind right now, because the weather's been so cold. And it's getting warmer now. If you're doing any kind of repairs to your lawn, right? So that coming on this weekend now with the weather, the soil getting warmer and the temperatures warmer, the grass is going to germinate a lot quicker, right? So sometimes people will sow the grass like in mid-May. This year, it would do nothing. Probably the birds probably end up eating it before it ever gets a chance to germinate. But so think about it. And I noticed today when I was driving around, coming down here, I saw a truck going with sods. So the sods are being harvested now. This is a great time of the year for putting out your sods because they get the whole summer ahead to get the grass established and whatnot. And the sods generally will take better with cooler weather. I'd say cooler, relatively cool, as opposed to like in the heat of the summer. And the soil is plenty moist right now too, so it's very good conditions now for laying down sods or for doing your grass seed. In regards to pruning, right now, I do most of my pruning I do a number of my pruning in the fall. Certain things you can prune this time of year. Now you can look at your hydrangeas and see what's alive and what's dead on your blue hydrangeas, and trim off any of the dead, which seems like at the gardens almost all of them died back to the ground this winter. And I thought it was a relatively mild winter, but
that's what everyone was saying.
It was a mild winter. And we've had more losses.
Snow, or?
I'm going to assume maybe it was a lack of snow in a big scheme of things, but I'm seeing a lot more deaths up in the garden and plants this year that other years never had any problems. Right. And yet I was thinking, why this is a really easy winter? But obviously from some of the plants, it wasn't an easy winter. Go figure.
Just had a text come in. Someone's got a few bare root asparagus. When is a good time to plant and how
Immediately.
Like yesterday.
Yesterday.
Do it.
Do it.
Stop listening
now.
to the show.
That's right. Get out there and plant them.
Get outside and get those bare root asparagus in the ground.
Yeah, and plant asparagus pretty deep.
Yeah.
Okay, they need to be down at least 6 to 8 inches deep to do their thing. They're very slow to get established. We've had them up in the garden now. Oh my gosh, I guess I've had them there for 5 years, and I still haven't harvested anything yet. They're just so darn slow. But I think ours might be getting a little bit too much shade. They like lots of sun. They like lots of food. But they're like rhubarb, right? The older they are, the better they are, right? But even rhubarb can take several years to get reestablished after you're starting a rhubarb for the first time. So the same thing with asparagus. It's going to take it a while. Don't expect to be getting your harvests for 3 or 4 years. But, keep lots of food to them, especially the compost. They love compost. And then, hopefully then get the ball rolling on those. But, yeah, try to get the roots in ASAP.
I think I was realizing I was an adult back. I was in the reserves years ago, and I was at this function, right? And they served asparagus with prosciutto wrapped around the top.
Oh, my God.
And like this blew my mind, right? I was 19 years old or 18. And I was like, I think I must be an adult now eating whatever this is. And it was delicious.
Oh, yeah.
You can't go wrong. Wrapping prosciutto or whatever around asparagus, or bacon around asparagus.
Yeah.
So
well,
good.
bacon on anything.
Yeah, I mean, really, though, right? Like, really. All right, we covered a few great tips. Thank you for that text message. So, get those asparagus into the ground ASAP. We talked to Shannon about onions in Middle Cove. We've got like 4 minutes left. This, imagine doing this every half-hour show every day.
This is crazy.
This is wild.
But,
we're just getting into it.
You talk about the Radio Noon up in Halifax, and a lot of their shows, the gardening ones they do up there are pretty short. It's like 35, 40 minutes. And, it's just too quick.
Yeah, because we're just,
You just get into a conversation and you get 2 or 3 questions in, and that's it.
And
the
done.
show's over, right?
That's why every Tuesday, with the exception of when we're interrupted by His Majesty,
there you go.
We got the full 5-5 here. We got a note, Ari asparagus from Linda saying harvested yesterday.
There you go. I mean, once we have up the garden, I'm tempted. There's only 3 spears up yet. And, it's like, do I have the heart to cut off 3 poor, miserable little spears? But yes, typically, if your asparagus is doing well, you'd be harvesting it by now.
Yeah.
Right? I know a friend of mine in Nova Scotia, of course, a different world over there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like 3 weeks ago, and he had this big basket full of asparagus, right? It's like, I hate you.
Yeah, right. Whether it's asparagus in the spring, that'll see on Instagram and stuff, people like, spring asparagus. And same with rhubarb once it starts. And we're nowhere near for certain things when I see them. I'll look at the rhubarb locally and be like, maybe another couple of weeks, maybe.
Or even longer.
Yeah. So,
well, you'll be surprised at how fast I think things are going to really take off in the next week.
Here we go. Grow season.
I think you're going to see a huge difference here. I think the city is going to turn green over this weekend. Yeah, I really do.
Spring explosion coming. June 14th, folks, spring plant sale at the Botanical Garden.
Be there early.
And yes, be there early if you want to get stuff. And free Father's Day admission for dads on the 15th. And check the website, right, for folks.
It's all the events are on the website. Yep. For certain.
It's all there. And what do you do? So when you leave this today, where do you go? What do you do? Back to the garden and work or what?
Yes.
I know you're working, but what are you doing this afternoon?
Oh, this afternoon we're weeding.
Yeah.
The cold weather didn't stop them. I only wish.
If only.
Right? If only. I think the weeds grew even better all this cold weather.
Yeah.
They had little competition from the flowers. I don't know. But anyway, it's weeding, and we're putting a new berm in on the main road, on Mount Si Road.
Oh.
We got a few of the trees in last fall, but we have a bunch of shrubs we got to pop in now. And so I have my students up there weeding that now, and maybe this afternoon we might start to get some of those shrubs popped in.
Excellent.
Certainly we will during the rest of the week for certain.
Well, thank you for today.
Okay.
Enjoy the stint away for
there you go.
vacay.
Yeah.
I'm away for a week now in June coming up as well, but I'll see you for the next one. And happy grow season. Thanks for this.
No, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
All right, folks. Todd Boland there from the Munn Botanical Garden. It's a shorter gardening today because we will leave you now in a minute so you can join your world tonight's Susan Bonner, Catherine Cullen of the House for special coverage as the King lays out the priorities of the new government of Mark Carney. So that starts now in 50 seconds. For tomorrow on the show, we are asking, what does accessibility really mean? What would the role of a disability advocate look like? You will hear from folks in the disability community. If you have thoughts for us on those 2 questions, what does accessibility really mean in Newfoundland and Labrador? And what should the role of a disability advocate look like? Email us thesignal@cbc.ca. Thanks for listening, folks.